Are you a soldier fighting on ships in the Civil War, but all the fancy new artillery keeps destroying your ship? Captain, our ship is starting to look like a slice of Swiss cheese. Well, introducing the Ironclad ship, a ship plated in iron to make your ship basically invincible from all incoming threats. In this commercial, we'll be telling you all about the advantages and history of Ironclad ships. Originally, warships were made mostly out of wood and powered by wind, which worked fine, except when there was no wind. Men, we must retreat! Captain, it appears that there is no wind. Crap. But when the Industrial Revolution came, engineers just stuck a steam engine in the boat, and boom, no wind needed. These ships usually still use sails to save on fuel, so they seem to be no different than normal wind warships. Of course, except for the massive smokestack coming out the top. Not only could these ships sail without wind, but they also had other advantages, like the ability to sail upriver. Movement of these ships was not the only thing that improved. In the 1850s, artillery improved too, but this sort of became a problem though. Artillery became so powerful that just one well-aimed shot could sink an entire ship. So engineers came up with the idea of plating their wooden ships with iron, which was an entirely new idea. And around the year 1550, the Koreans built turtle ships, as they had a large iron shell to protect the men inside. The first ironclad ship to be built was the CSS Virginia, followed shortly by the USS Monitor. These ironclad ships were so strong that a cannonball could bounce off them as if they were swatting a fly. Ironclad ships became the dominant form of ship, and in the coming years, wooden ships would fade into obscurity. Ironclads were made much differently than old wooden warships. First off, the most obvious difference is the 2 layers of 2-inch thick iron plating. In the back, they have a huge metal propeller just like modern ships do, which is powered by the steam engine. Above the steam engine is the smokestack, which releases all the smoke from the engine outside the ship. The size of the smokestack varies depending on the ship, but the bigger they are, the more likely they are to get snapped like a twig. Finally, at the very front you have the pilot house with a tiny little slit where the captain sees out of. But of course, every ship is unique. For example, the Virginia has large sloped sides so that cannonballs will bounce right off them. Meanwhile, the Monitor has a flat top and sails low in the water. But one notable feature the Monitor has the Virginia doesn't is its signature rotating turret. Most ships, including the Virginia, had cannons that could only shoot the direction they were facing, but the Monitor had a turret that could rotate so that no matter which way the ship was facing, it could hit its target. So ironclads were much different than old warships in terms of construction, but how did they fare in battle? Ironclads were amazingly strong in battle, but what was it that made them so strong? Well, the most obvious one is the huge hunk of armor that made it practically immune to oncoming cannon fire. The walls were so strong that cannonballs just bounced off them. One of the other advantages we've already mentioned is the steam engine, which allows for easier movement of the ship. The final advantage of these ships were their lack of weak points. Wooden ships had sails and towers that allowed for easy ways to make the enemy vulnerable. You could even argue that the hull was a weak point because of its lack of resistance to cannonballs. But ironclads had very few weak points. Other than the smokestack, ironclads didn't have any weaknesses, but even if you hit the smokestack, you probably wouldn't do significant damage. All of these advantages changed the way naval battles worked. Originally, it was thought that forts were better than ships, but with ironclads being so durable, they could easily get close to forts to bombard it with cannon fire. So ironclads were good in battle against both wooden ships and forts, and showed what naval warfare would look like for years to come. In conclusion, ironclads were incredibly powerful and completely changed naval battles and how they worked. They were durable, fast, and had an interesting history. And for the low price of $9.99, $99.99, you can have your own.